That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about LUZ, the sophomore film directed by Flora Lau, which premiered at the 2025 Sundance Film Festival in the World Cinema Dramatic Competition.
Are you familiar with this director's first film?
Yes, her debut was called Benz from 2013, which premiered in certain regard at the Cannes Film Festival. I actually just watched it for the first time about a month ago in preparation for seeing LUZ, which I believe films, this film, I think this shot in like 2018 or 2019.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I've been wondering when this film would see the light of day. But yes, I am familiar with her previous film, which was lensed by Christopher Doyle. So her first film also looks very impressive.
Oh, nice. What is LUZ about? In Chongqing, Wei desperately searches for his daughter Fei. In Paris, Ren grapples with stepmother Sabine. Their lives collide in a VR world where a mystical deer reveals hidden truths, sparking a journey of discovery and connection. Well, if that sounds confusing, that would be accurate. What's your pull quote?
As a portrait of Hong Kong as a neon-lit demi-monde, Flora Lau's LUZ is transfixing. But even with a healthy dose of Isabelle Huppert as a fashionably ailing focal point, the narrative's deliberations on the virtual world versus reality only succeed in creating an emotional void.
Mine. While LUZ is visually impressive, it has about as much life as the virtual reality it showcases.
Fair.
This one didn't work for me. I'm sorry.
No, but there were things. I think that I was, I'm going to watch anything and everything with Isabelle Huppert, but because of how long it took, and maybe it was because of the special effects of the film, that I was dreading watching it because I thought it was going to be terrible. But that said, I think there were things that I did like about it.
Sure. Okay. The story is it's kind of all over the place. There's a lot going on, but we can start with the title. So LUZ references this game that's like VR.
Yeah.
Virtual reality. I guess we can start with Wei. So Wei is this guy who works like as how would you describe him? Like not a hitman.
He's kind of a goon for...
A goon, that's a good word.
For some
businessman who has a lot of money, clearly. Yeah. We only really see this businessman running a karaoke lounge, but it's like ultra luxe. And I mean, it's so luxe that he purportedly has a multi-million-dollar portrait hanging in it.
Yes.
So Wei wants to get out the business. He's a goon with his brother. So there's that. Wei also has an estranged daughter. She's estranged because Wei went to prison for 8 years and the mother told the daughter, your daddy died. So instead of trying to reach out to his daughter in a way that would make sense, he just stalks her on social media.
Where she does live streams.
So I don't know, I guess like the
men.
Equivalent of like Twitch or something.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so he's stalking his daughter. To what end is not quite clear. Okay. Then there's a lady named Ren, and Ren...
Played by Sandrine Pinna. Wei is played by Xiaodong Guo.
Ren is the daughter of a famous artist. The same artist who painted that multi-million-dollar portrait I just mentioned.
Twilight Forest, yes.
So one day Ren, who lives in Hong Kong, this is where Wei is as well. One day she gets a call from someone named Mimi.
That Mimi Xu... Playing Mimi, that's who did the soundtrack.
But do we ever meet Mimi?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't...
We meet Mimi.
Oh. I saw her name so much that I don't recall seeing her. Anyway, Mimi tells Ren, she doesn't say your mom, she says Sabine is really sick. You should come see her because she might not have long. You need to come to Paris. And of course, then I thought, this Sabine must be Isabelle Huppert, and I assumed it's her mother. We find out it's her stepmother. So Ren goes to Paris, meets up with Sabine, Isabelle Huppert, and they're pretty cold to one another. And we find out that the last time they saw each other was 5 years prior, and the reason they're a little estranged is because when Sabine and Ren's dad broke up, it wasn't a good breakup, and the dad had always made Sabine feel like, that's not your daughter.
Yeah.
So she felt disconnected from her after the split. But Ren seems confused by her stepmom, like, if you're dying, why are you running around, Isabelle, I can just picture her like when she took the role, like, okay, if I'm dying, you better make it fashion because
yes, and
she looks fabulous in every scene.
Well, and it turns out to be like an aneurysm.
That she's at risk.
That she's at risk.
So she must have something going on.
Right.
But so we see those two characters attempting to reconcile something. It feels so inert. Also, there's this symbolism because the portrait, we find out that the dad, the artist, after he broke up with Isabelle, he
added a deer to the Twilight Forest portrait.
But he also sort of like became fixated on painting in the forest.
Yes.
And then maybe his paintings included deer, and the deer supposed to represent Isabelle. Okay, so Ren likes to play the game LUZ. So she's all about this virtual reality world. Wei, stalking his daughter on Twitch, I guess, he finally decides to confront her, which I thought was so ridiculous.
Well, because his daughter, Fa, says, talking about when her mom died, and he loses it. He's like, what do you mean your mom died?
On a live stream, Fa, I said Faye, maybe it's Fa. Fa, says, oh, my mom passed, and he freaks out and pays for a private chat. And he's like, what are you talking about? And he gets on camera, because up to this point, all his private chats with his daughter, who does kind of like pseudo-sexual stuff, which was really uncomfortable.
Yes.
We don't see her do it, but she talks about it. He kept telling her, my camera doesn't work. But then he finally makes his camera work and says, I'm your dad, I know all about you. And of course she gets freaked out and blocks him. But he had learned that she likes to play this game. So then Wei starts playing the game. And we're told that this game has like 300 different worlds. It's this vast game. But somehow Wei ends up running into Ren in this specific world. Like, what are the odds that he bumps into the daughter?
And he's flailing about there, like, how can I find my daughter?
We need to talk more about it. But the reason I'm saying it's a coincidence is because Wei and his brother, they want to get out the game, but they need money. Because the way they're portrayed is like they don't have money.
Yeah.
They like to go swimming in like an industrial like stream. It's like the water next to a nuclear power plant.
Well, and he lives next to the train tracks.
Which I think would signify that he doesn't have money. In their boss's karaoke bar, which is this ultra luxe building, the boss, says he has like this. He says that he has one of Ren's dad's paintings hanging and it's beautifully showcased. But he tells us that he paid $5 million for this before the dad died. So now it's like priceless. So Wei and his brother are like, oh, we can steal this portrait and use that money to live. So they have a duplicate made and all that, which we can get to. But that's why I'm saying the coincidence. What are the odds that Wei bumps into Ren in this virtual reality and she's the daughter of the artist whose portrait they're trying to steal so they can get out the game? But everything culminates in Wei and Ren in the VR world LUZ. And their goal, because Ren keeps talking about she wants to find the deer in this world, which is confusing to me because that deer is, she's, I guess, also identifying that that's the deer in her dad's painting. But I don't understand why she wants to find it, which we can talk about more. But she does. And then she tells Ren, like, oh, I know how you can find your daughter. And then all it amounts to is them just sitting down.
Just sit down and wait for her to come to you.
And then the daughter shows up. And then she does exactly what you thought she would do.
Yep, I'm like, he's going to meet her and she's going to disappear.
Because Shorty blocked his ass.
Yes.
And that's exactly what she does. She disappears. So then the final scene is that we see that Sabine, Isabelle, has obviously died. And Ren seems at peace. And we see Wei in his apartment packing up. And then all of a sudden his door knocks. And it's his goofy ass daughter. And then she just walks in and goes, wow.
Yeah, I don't know what she was saying that to, but
yeah,
okay.
And then that's the end of the movie. Oh my gosh, there's so much going on. And I just think the problem is I felt like it really does feel inert.
Well, yeah, because we don't really feel anything for any of these people, despite my love for Isabelle thinking that she's cute in it and looks great. And there's two really weird dancing moments, but so that's fun.
Okay, Wei, he misses his daughter, but we never understand. I mean, we don't understand anything about his relationship with the wife or the kid, what it was like before he went to prison, why his wife would do him like that. It doesn't really seem to make sense why he would want to see his daughter in this capacity, because it's kind of cringy.
It is, well, yeah, because he's doing these. When he's off camera and he's talking to her privately, and she's like, "Do you want to see this new dance?"
It's just awkward. I don't know why he wouldn't have just reached out to her and said, "Hey."
Right.
Because when he finally does tell her he's her dad, he's kind of hysterical about it.
Yes.
So it's like, well, that's not going to work. She's going to block you. Oop, blocked. Okay, so I don't understand that. Then the opening of the film is Wei and his brother going to do a gig, and they're driving through the city, which is shot beautifully.
Yeah.
It's so beautifully shot.
It made me want to go there.
Yeah, and they're driving in this beautiful black Audi, and they pull up in this parking lot, and they beat up some rando, get in the car, and then we see Wei on his phone watching this young girl who we don't know is his daughter yet. And that's kind of the only sense we get of what his job is like. His boss seems really nice.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand what's so awful. I mean, obviously beating up people for work is not the best, but I feel like there's no depth to that. And then Ren, the main character, I really don't understand her. She just seems sad. Like generically sad.
Looking like Joanne Wally Kilmer from the 80s is what I thought she looked like. But yeah, she just seems, well, it's interesting. Like this young woman is kind of being pulled out of virtual reality to deal with reality, while Wei's daughter is in the opposite scenario.
That's really interesting.
Again, but it doesn't coalesce. It feels like these two things are just like smashed together.
Yeah.
And how they relate to each other, I think, feels too coincidental.
Oh, for sure. But Ren, like, not really understanding who she is as a person at all.
Yeah, I don't really know what this means to you with your stepmother, because what we're in this whole Twilight Forest and the deer, she says that was the happiest memory from my childhood, was when you and my dad and me and I were in the woods and he was painting this Twilight Forest with the deer.
But then she also says, after you left, Dad just spent all his time in the woods and I hated it. It makes my skin crawl thinking about it.
Right, so...
Okay, and then Isabelle doesn't seem like she was that attached to her when they were a family.
This is like Nicole Kidman with Tom Cruise, those kids she had with Tom Cruise.
Well, I mean, kind of, like, I'm not a parent, but I can't imagine raising a kid and loving them so much and then just being so disconnected to them and they didn't do anything.
Right.
So that felt weird. And then Isabelle, as much fun as she is to look at, there's nothing to her. She's literally dying.
Yeah.
Looks fabulous. And she says, like, if I'm going to die soon, I want to live. So Ren is upset that Isabelle keeps going out and drinking and partying. But it's not partying. She's very it's very elite. Like, she's this clearly notable socialite within the art world. And so she goes to like gallery openings and she drinks champagne and dances like a crazy person.
Choreographing some performance arts.
And then she's involved in some performance art that I will say did look really cool.
It did look cool, yeah.
So it's not like she's out here being like a derelict.
Right.
So I didn't quite understand that. But the overall message I got from it, if I had to really try hard, well, it's not hard to connect the dots like you said. It's interesting that one retreats into the VR world while one has to be pulled out to feel something. And then we have Isabelle's character kind of mocking her stepdaughter. Like, well, how are you busy? What do you do except just play this game? But then we get a scene where Isabelle gets to play at one time.
Yeah.
And she's like, wow.
And that's the end. And I think that's symbolizing her death, because they see the deer together. Who is Isabelle to her?
Visually, it's all very effective, but
Well, it's funny thematically, because I'm very familiar with Isabelle's filmography. There was a film last year with Hafsia Herji, I think called The Prisoners of Burgundy. It has a new title in English, but where she's this rich woman and Hafsia is trying to steal paintings from her. And then, of course, Isabelle, whenever she's playing somebody that's dying, always looks dressed to
fabulous.
The nines. It kind of reminded me of Ira Sachs' Frankie, where she's wandering around in the woods with Marissa Tomei and she passes out in one scene. I've seen her in this vein from multiple angles, but yeah, it just doesn't. it never comes together where you feel invested.
No.
Is the problem. But shout out to the Chilean cinematographer, or is he Argentinian? Benjamín Echazarreta, who lensed a few of Sebastian Lelio's early films like Gloria and A Fantastic Woman.
I have a few notes. The descriptions, like the closed captioning, I'm assuming for like the hearing impaired, of the music was very interestingly detailed and specific.
Oh, yes.
So shout out to whomever wrote those. I did think one really good line that kind of belies Ren's behavior is when Wei first goes into LUZ, the VR world, and he bumps into Ren, like the first encounter. He just wanders into this world and he's like, "Can you help me find my daughter?" And she's like, "I don't know who your daughter is." But she does have a line where she says, "Go find her in the real world."
Right?
And I thought, yeah, maybe you should.
Yeah, aren't you a gangster? Go corner her.
Okay, related to Wei's character, so he has like a girlfriend who has a daughter, like a little girl, like maybe 5 years old, and that little girl keeps calling him daddy. And he seems to have an aversion to that. I thought that whole relationship felt so flat.
Well, again, it's playing with these kind of opposites and like, you know, his dilemma with his real biological daughter versus this other little girl that's available to him to be a daddy to.
It just all seems so basic.
Could have cut all that.
Yeah. Then my last gripe is this side plot of like, because they're trying to lift or boost the portrait in their boss's karaoke bar. So they go to some guy who can like replicate the portrait, which he does, and they very easily swap them out in a way that felt, I mean, it's almost comical.
There's no cameras in this.
We're told this
bar?
thing was $5 million before.
Right.
And you mean to tell me that now that it's probably priceless, they have it just, it's again beautifully showcased, but there's no protective glass, no cameras on it.
Yeah.
I just think that the way it's depicted is so half-baked. Then we find out that that portrait that they stole is a replica. And again, I'm sure people could argue that all of the symbolism, I mean, because you could argue that it's a replica as in everything they're doing is kind of fake, not unlike the VR world.
Yes.
You can make a lot of connections, but I feel because the emotion is lacking, it's like I don't want to take the energy to try to do that.
Right.
So then it just seems silly.
A little bit, sure. But I think films dealing with virtual reality games tend to always kind of not reach the height that they're aiming for. There was another film at Cannes I saw last year. It had some queer elements to it as well. I didn't think... and the title of this also opens it up to, are the people that participating called losers?
Well, I think it's so beautifully shot and I really like the score.
Yeah.
I almost think like you could watch this on mute and just play the score.
The score is great. Yeah. Again, it is transfixing to look at.
What would you give LUZ?
2.5.
This didn't work for me, so I feel like I would give it 2 out of 5. Sorry. Join us on Patreon and listen to our podcast. Bye.